Hey, Maya. How we doing, Scott? Sorry that didn't work on your... Well, who were you volunteering with? The Literacy Council?
This was a format, but I went through the Kalamazoo Public Library. You know, we've got a new director of the library now. I'm going to produce an article where I interview him in the next issue.
Oh.
I'd like to get this whole issue for him.
Oh, yeah, okay. Here, let me see.
It's got some good poetry and there are articles.
What's it, $1.25?
Yes, there is no go back.
Thank you.
Like that. There's some really good poetry, I think, on page 3 or something like that.
Okay, cool.
Well, I shouldn't say that because most of it's my poetry.
I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Shot him with the list. Okay.
This words.
All right, okay.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Hey, how you doing? Well, you got through your first one. Good, you did good. First one I did, I stumbled all over the place.
I'm nervous.
Listen, you got a script?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's how it works.
Oh my goodness.
That's the one for this one. This one, you don't want to touch it because it cuts off that.
Okay.
Yeah.
They should have beat them.
John?
Some games but he's the second leading scorer in the team. Tomorrow I think next time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we find. Yeah, that's what we find. Gotta win now. Yes.
Oh, wow. This time. It's safe face.
Yeah.
Read an article. A few somethings back, right? It talked about Grand Valley's surge and this
Yeah.
You get first sit down. You didn't go, did you?
Oh, good. How about you? Good. Good, good.
Oh, I was wondering what you were going to go for. Now, you got me kind of twisted up on that, bud. You didn't hit yourself.
What? Next Friday. You don't need always. Oh.
Pastor.
Friday and Saturday. That's what I was just told, but you know. I recommend a moment of silence usually, rather than a commissioner giving a prayer. It keeps that separation. President. You could, yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call this Kalamazoo City Commission meeting to order. Clerk Morling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Cooney.
Present.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here.
Commissioner Sykes.
Here.
Commissioner Urban.
Here.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Here.
Mayor Hopewell.
Is there a motion to excuse Mayor Hopewell?
So move.
Support. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Thank you. For our opening ceremony, we're going to stand and have a moment of silence, and then we are going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioners, in front of you, you have a proposed agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any changes? If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak on items on the consent agenda, those items are in section F. Please indicate those items at this time so they can be moved to the regular agenda. Hearing none, the formal agenda is adopted. City Manager Ritzma, any communications, please?
Yes, one tonight. Next Tuesday, the 27th of February at 5:30 p.m., there will be a work session in the community room to discuss the medical marijuana ordinances and situation.
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. City Manager.
The following are presented for approval. First is the approval of a contract with the Michigan Department of Transportation for the West Michigan Howard Street Multiple Intersections Project in the amount of $248,000. Next is the approval of a contract extension with Aetna Supply Company for the purchase of waterless fire hydrants for a not-to-exceed amount of $257,050. Next is the approval of a purchase of 13 public safety fleet vehicles through the Oakland County Cooperative Purchase Program in the amount of $373,555. Next is the approval of a one-year contract with the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority through IBEX Insurance Agency for property and casualty insurance and at an annual premium not to exceed $815,126. Next is the approval of a 5-year extension of the lease with Kalamazoo Storage Center, LLC for the city's off-site record storage facility at 3003 South Burdick Street in the amount of $225,090. Next is the approval of amendments to the fiscal year 2017 budgeted appropriations, including one, an increase in the general fund appropriation by $265,589, two, an increase in the solid waste fund appropriation by $142,000, and three, an increase of the public safety KVET drug enforcement appropriation by $180,610. Next is the adoption of a notice of intent resolution for the issuance of 2018 capital improvement bonds in an amount not to exceed $8.3 million. Next is the adoption of a notice of intent resolution for the issuance of 2018 water supply system revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $9.9 million. And next is the adoption of a notice of intent resolution for the issuance of 2018 wastewater system revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $6.6 million. Next is the adoption of a resolution approving application for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Recreation Passport Grant in the amount of $75,000 for the development and rehabilitation of Crane Park, and approve a match of 87%, which equates to $510,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund, for a total project budget of $585,000 as identified in the 2018 to 2022 Capital Improvement Plan. Next is the adoption of a resolution vacating the 206-foot-long public alley located between North Park Street and Cooley Street. Next is the authorization for the acquisition of easements for the South Drake Road Sidewalk Improvement Project between Arboretum Parkway and West Main Street by eminent domain if such is required, and further authorization for the city manager and the city attorney to take such actions as they determine reasonable, appropriate, or legally required for the acquisitions. Next is the acceptance of a grant from the Northwoods League Foundation in the amount of $52,000 and approval of an increase to the fiscal year 2018 budget appropriation to establish a capital project for the construction of an accessible seating area behind home plate at Homer Stryker Field. Next is the approval of a recommendation to the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners that Kurt Ardema be appointed as one of the 3 city representatives to the Central County Transportation Authority. Next are the approval of the following appointments and reappointments to board and commissions. The appointment of Christina Doan to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term expiring on March 31, 2021, and the appointment of Jeff Carroll to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term expiring on March 31, 2021. Next is the approval of the minutes from the City Commission meeting on February 5, 2018. And finally, approval of the following actions for property related to the Harrison Street, Ransom Street, Gull Road Roundabout and Street Improvement Project. First is the approval of an agreement for declaration of easements between the city, including the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority and Mary Jean Joasiak, including Precision Heat Treating Company, and adoption of a resolution vacating Caves Court.
Commissioners, the requested action is to approve items 1 through 16 on the consent agenda, hold item 17 until March 5th, 2018, and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
I move that.
Is there a second?
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Urbans, seconded by Commissioner Cooney. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cooney,
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes,
Yes.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The items on the consent agenda are approved. Up next, we have reports and legislation. City Manager, do we have a report?
Nothing, Your Evening, Dishonor.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Clerk Borling?
No, Your Honor.
Up next is the opportunity for citizens in the audience to address the Commission. Anyone wishing to address the Commission on any topic should come forward to the podium. Please give your name and whether you live within the city. You will have 4 minutes to make your comments. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name now legally is Nehemiah Scudder. As most of you know, it used to be Aisha Kazad, and I went through legal name change to Nehemiah Scudder. And I live at 345 North Burdick, which is the Rickman House. And I'm in apartment number 303 there, which I'm very happy with, and I'm appreciative of the fact that Housing Resource Incorporated has upgraded that building a whole lot, and I'm happy there. What I'm here to speak about just now is the waste barrels in the bus stations around the city. When I spoke about this a couple of times, maybe a year or two ago, I got a phone call asking me which waste barrels did I have in mind. And I mentioned two, one near where I was living then, and one across from Fox Ridge. Well, shortly after that, those two bus stops got barrels, and actually the one near where I live got empty a couple of times, so it was progress. I think if we could get some of the trash dumped into barrels like that and emptied appropriately, that would help to clean up the city a little bit, which is good. However, the barrel across from Fox Ridge wasn't fastened down or anything like that, and it disappeared after a couple of weeks, and nobody put another one in. When I discussed this in public like this before that happened, I suggested that you could weld a chain link from it to the structure where it is, and it would still be possible to empty it, and yet it wouldn't get taken so easily. Well, other places in the cities where I've checked, a couple of places don't have barrels. Maybe they require some other citizens to comment on them. But I think if we could get waste barrels appropriately scattered throughout the city and the bus stations, the bus stops, whatever you want to call them, that would help a great deal to ease the waste problem of wrappers and all kinds of paper junk and other things, plastics that we get in our city. And it'd be nice to have a cleaner city, which I think everybody would appreciate. And if we could do that by putting waste barrels in the bus stops, that would be one way to work on that. I've still got a minute and 19 seconds, but I have no further comment at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jack Leggett. I came with some concerns. Last year they done Amtrak railroad crossings here in town. They were all right. The tracks were a little rough after they fixed them, but my main concern was the toxic waste that they left behind. There's a 55-gallon drum that's been there for almost a year now. It's actually knocked over and it's probably leaking. It's right behind the health department on Park Street. My concern was, why is it there? Why has it been tipped over? It's been 3 weeks. Nobody's touched it. My concern is it clearly says contaminated hazardous waste with a big sticker on it. I actually took a picture of it. And it's so close to the road that anybody having an accident could hit that barrel. Is it flammable? Toxic? It's leaking into our drain. I don't want to end up like Flint. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, do you live in the city?
Yes, I do live in the city.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, my name's Tim Graham, and I am a resident of the city. I'm here tonight to tell you about a new party and a movement that I'm in the process of starting. It's not the Democratic Party, it's not the Republican Party. It's going to be a democratic movement, a party of the people. It's going to be about the environment, it's going to be about education, it's going to be about government, about democracy, about districting and gerrymandering, and about financial prioritization and the privatization of the city, which I think the engagement, the funding mechanism that we're using right now is. And I don't think we should be using private money in public office. So that'll all be part of the agenda of this new party. What I ask, I will go to every one of the commissioners and ask them to join this movement, and I will ask them to consider other things in the future. And so each one of you will have a decision as to whether you're going to endorse that party and its principles or whether you're not. But the one thing I will ask you to look in the mirror, to put the city of Kalamazoo in the mirror, and ask yourself, is the existing structure democratic or authoritarian? Is it horizontal or vertical? And whichever you answer, I would like you to answer the question why or why not. And if it's not, I would like to hear your opinions, and we would, the people that are forming this organization. And if it isn't democratic, I would like to know why it isn't. So I really want to see the city government change. We're living in an era of change. And I've been waiting all along for the government to change on its own, including the manager's office, which I think is complicit with the commission. And so my goal is to create openness and transparency, which is an element of any democracy, accountability, which I don't believe we have. I certainly don't want to see private sector money take over any city I live in. And we're living in a corporatocracy and a plutocracy all over the United States, and especially in Michigan. The city and most cities in Michigan are run by big money and big corporations. And that is a huge problem, in my opinion. So as this starts to structure, and hopefully will lead to candidates not only for the commission, but also on the agencies of the commission, so that they're not stacked with cronies who are supporting the status quo. Also, to get the people who are sitting on this commission, many of them, to open their mouths and say what they believe. And also new commissioners, that they feel free to say what they think rather than what they're told to think. So I just put that out there. It's going to happen. It's going to be a movement of the people. And hopefully everyone on the commission will participate. And together we'll turn this city around. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is David Poole. Spoken to you folks before. I appreciate you giving me the time to speak to you again. Currently living on the east side of the state, but I have been a long-time resident of Kalamazoo. I'm here again today to express my concern over the Kalamazoo Valley Blues Association and their attempts to use public facilities, in particular the Arcadia Creek Festival site, for their events. The KVBA is a nonprofit organization, and as such, their excess revenues should benefit a charitable cause and not the members or the officers of the organization. But the fact of the matter is that the KVBA is distributing their profits for the benefit of its members in violation of its bylaws and Michigan law. I have discussed this issue with the head of the Criminal Investigation Division of the Kalamazoo Public Safety, and the feedback I received is that it's a conflict of interest. But for a nonprofit to give money to its officers, of course it's a conflict of interest. That's about the only way a nonprofit can violate the laws. But it becomes more than just a conflict of interest when a nonprofit submits false tax returns and fails to provide material information on their tax returns to the state of Michigan. I'm requesting that the City Commission here investigate the financial reports of the Kalamazoo Valley Blues Association and determine if they are fulfilling their nonprofit commission and if they are in fact deceiving the citizens and the business and the government of the state of Michigan and the city of Kalamazoo by holding themselves out as a nonprofit when they're really holding programs that only benefit their officers, founders, and the members. So thank you. If you appreciate it, read my information. I've handed to the clerk, and I'll follow up with you folks later. Thank you again.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Frank Warren, and I'm here to discuss maybe two problems I think we got in Kalamazoo right now. You know, we've had some heavy snow this year, and it seems like the plows cannot push that snow up over the top of the curb and open them storm sewers up, because they need to be opened up. Because where I live at, I watch the water go right down through where I live at, right down the parking lot, to West Main, to Westnich. And they need to get them storm sewers unplugged for this rainstorm that's coming in. Right now you've got snow, it's plugging every one of these storm sewers up so the water cannot get down through them, and they need to unplug them and do it fast. I know that's happening. Also, you know, the 14th through the 17th, you got the American Legion in June here in Kalamazoo. And it'd be nice if Kalamazoo would roll the red carpet out for that convention. That's the American Legion convention. It's going to be in here the 14th through the 17th of June. They're going to take over the Radissons, where their headquarters is going to be. I've got 3 shuttles been offered to us from Sealy Ford. They're going to give us 3 vans to be used to shuttle people back and forth to and from different hotels. And if someone want to go out, some of the women who do not belong to auxiliary, if they want to jump in a shuttle and go shopping, we're going to send them out to the shopping centers, take them to shopping centers. We're going to take them all over. We're going to take them where they want to go. If someone wants to go to the air zoo, we're going to take them to the air zoo. We've got 3 shuttles that's going to be doing all that. So I think seriously, you know, maybe now's the time to plan for giving them people a welcoming when they come to Kalamazoo, because, you know, it ain't very seldom you get a convention, American Legion convention, state of Michigan come in here to in here at all. You're lucky to have them come here, Because generally they go to like Grand Rapids, Detroit, Flint, all the big cities. But the reason why they're going to the smaller cities is they're looking for rooms that are cheaper. They're getting tired of paying $150 plus parking, like they're doing. I think now they got to pay parking here. I'm not for sure. But anyway, they're going to be in here. So I want you guys to know that maybe Kalamazoo should have some kind of sign out on the outside, welcome Legionnaires to Kalamazoo, or some kind of way to let them know, even a signboard, a couple of signboards. It wouldn't hurt you to do that, you know, because, and also the second week in May, we're going to have a dedication over to Sealy Fords. I think I told you about that. It's going to be he's putting up the Iwo Jima monument out in front of his dealership at the tune of $50,000. And that's going to be in the honor of his dad, who was a Marine. I didn't know until I asked him over there. He said, yeah, my dad was a Marine. So the Marines he's going to do that and dedicating to his dad. So I'm helping Sealy get that set up. And going to have quite a crowd in here, I hope. I think we got people coming in from Indianapolis. I got people coming in from Battle Creek that's going to bring the Legion Riders are coming in here. They'll be here for the ceremony. We're going to have quite a lot of people here for that ceremony too. So I've got a busy plate. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission? Good evening.
Hello, everyone. My name's Zachary Laster. I live in the city. I'd rather not say my address at this point. 2 years ago tomorrow, something pretty nasty happened in our community. I think we all know what that was. Some guy went around randomly shooting some people, and I don't want to say much more about that, but I just want to remind people that that happened here. And since that time, there have been other shootings that have happened here. And I think we need to remember that that has happened, because the reality is not a whole lot has been done. And I understand there's not a whole lot as a city we can do, because much of those laws are set on the national and state level. But I encourage people to reach out to your legislators and all that and remind them that it happened too, because it's not cool, and people should be able to feel safe in their community. And I'd like to see some sort of positive change, and that's going to take actual conversation and not finger pointing and overgeneralizations of things. So right now the conversation I see on a national level isn't productive at all, and I feel like we're just putting up billboards and saying, hey, read the billboard. Everyone's just saying a bunch of slogans over and over, and there's no conversation. It's disappointing. So I'd just like to see some sort of change regarding that.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission tonight? Commissioners, we are now at the opportunity for commissioner comments. I'll start the evening with Commissioner Sykes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Knott. So just a couple of things. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming out. Thank you for your input. In regards to the KVBA, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I don't think that we have the authority to do that sort of investigation. And again, if I'm wrong, I'll apologize. But I would suggest maybe figuring out whatever state body might have that authority. I want to send my heartfelt thoughts, condolences to the victims of the school shooting in Florida over the past, within the past week, and also say to the young people who are now organizing there and around the country, and some of whom are actually organizing here in our community, I'm grateful, and I know that we all, we see them, we hear them, and we are so, so proud of them. So if you're one of those youth, thank you so much for your work. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Urban. All right. Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Cunningham.
Frank, I completely agree with you. I think this is a good opportunity as citizens to go out and clear our drains. Oftentimes we walk right by it, go to our mailbox, or walk right by it and go to the store, whatever that may be. Sometimes people carry sticks within their car, take it out of their car. Good reason to carry a stick with you is to clear out the drains on the streets. And I also thank you for the recognition of a dark time in our community, but I think it is a good opportunity to give light to our survivors, those who went through something that we could never imagine, but they're heroes now in our community, and we appreciate the heroism that they took, or sheroism that they took during that time. It's also President's Day. I think that right now is a very interesting climate politically. I think that it is a good time to be a great leader. And oftentimes we don't agree with our leaders. And I think we are seeing that right now with our presidency. But that doesn't mean as an individual you can't take a stance. That doesn't mean that you can't disagree. That doesn't mean that you can't stand on the right side of history. We look at certain things in our community, and oftentimes people don't stand up when they should. And I would also like to echo your sentiments, Commissioner Sykes, in that, you know, rallying, it's not just about action, but the execution. Some people have a lot of ability to speak, but they don't have the ability to execute. And as leaders here in this community and my colleagues up here, I commend all of you for the due diligence that I see that you do. I commend you for taking a stance, even when it's not always popular. I thank you for, you know, leading the individuals who every day decide to go to war and go to battle with you and follow along with you. I think that speaks highly to our manager, Ritzma, who has continuously, time and time again, went against the grain, or to say, and I appreciate the work that you continuously do in regards to all of our administration. I think you guys are highly trained, and not only that, but you are doing well executing, and that's all I have to say for tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Mr. Vice Mayor. Yesterday, I was at Galilee Baptist Church yesterday afternoon for the annual remembrance for the victims of gun violence. And about 20 people came to the front of the room individually and had pictures of members of their family who had been shot down. Some of them over the past year, some of them a few years ago, all of them brokenhearted at these terrible, terrible killings. And all over the papers for the past week, we've seen the pictures of those young people in Florida, of 17 killed. You know, there was an article in the New York Times yesterday by a woman named Maureen Dowd, and the title of her article was "Appeasing the Gun Gods." We can't make restrictions on guns. People have to be able, we can't make any reasonable restrictions. People have got to be able to have their guns. But meanwhile, people are being killed. Kids are being killed. Well, that's collateral damage. That's just on the side. But I don't think this time people are going to get away with that. Those students in that school are standing up. And people around the country are standing up. I think this is a trigger event. We know what to do. Other countries have found ways to allow people to have guns and to have reasonable restrictions. We know that the states that have the most severe restrictions have the least gun violence, and the states that have the most lax restrictions have the most gun violence. So we know what to do. It's a question of whether we are going to push the people that have power to do the right thing. So I want to tonight join my voice to those kids in Florida and say, time's up. Let's get some reasonable gun laws and stop the killing.
Thank you. I have 2 items tonight. First, I would like to welcome my students that are from my Monday section of 4020. It's a class at Western Michigan University. It's a social policy class. And they're here. They're probably getting tired of me talking about this, but for my colleagues, last Monday, President Trump released his budget priorities for the country. Now, I know that you all understand that it's a blueprint, it's his vision for the direction for the country, and it's not necessarily what the Congress will do in terms of appropriations. That all being said, at a recent meeting, we approved a memorandum of understanding that's, I believe it was $3.5 million to potentially leverage up to $30 million for housing, affordable housing, and economic development projects. And I lift that up again because it's an innovative and creative way for a community the size of Kalamazoo to be thinking forward or progressively in the same era when the president has proposed substantial cuts, billions of dollars in cuts in housing programs. So heating and cooling programs that protect our seniors, billions of dollars of cuts to Section 8. He would like to eliminate the Community Development Block Grant program in its entirety. He'd like to close down the Department of Neighborhood Reinvestment, which funds organizations like Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Services. So while we were doing something just a couple weeks ago, thinking that we were getting ahead of it, right? This is a creative, problem-solving way to increase affordable housing opportunities. Our work is cut out for us because we have a president who's thinking about how do we make substantial cuts to the tools and the resources that currently exist that kind of fund the status quo as it relates to affordable housing. This is who knows what the Congress is going to do, but these are things that we need to be mindful of, and I know that we are, but I thought I would lift it up for you today. The second item that I have, at our last commission meeting, a gentleman came to the podium and talked to us about 2 separate but interrelated issues. One was ducks in a row. We've all heard about ducks in a row. And the other was the condemnation of his house. And I'd like to call up Director Kick to make a short presentation about what's going on with both of those items.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. It's nice to see you tonight. So first I want to address the first issue that Vice Mayor Knott brought up, which is the Ducks in a Row program and the zoning that kind of keeps the ducks off of the property right now. So Mr. Womhoff, who runs the Ducks in a Row program, November of last year, worked with Pete Eldridge in our office, our zoning administrator, and they prepared an application for the Zoning Board of Appeals. And for just a quick background, the reason that Chris's property could not have the ducks and the poultry that he had was that his property is too narrow. So his property is only 44 feet wide, and currently when you want to have a coop for poultry or for rabbits, you need to have at least a 25-foot setback from your neighbors on each side. And so that would be pretty difficult with such a small property, so he needed to go for a variance. So we helped him prepare the application for the variance in November, and unfortunately that variance was denied. Chris's neighbors did have a lot to say about the ducks and the poultry at that time, and the zoning board was not able to approve that variance. Since then, Chris's house has been condemned, totally separate issue, not related to the ducks. We were informed, the city was informed by Consumers Energy several days after the utilities were disconnected from his residence that kerosene heat was being used at that residence, and so we were informed at that time, and because of the safety risk of that, we had information, and so we needed to go in and condemn the home. I don't have any updates on that. We don't regularly communicate with Consumers Energy. We're kind of out of the picture at this point. But the secondary zoning issue for, again, bringing the Ducks in a Row program back, Mr. Wamhoff has received another parcel, another piece of land that he is considering, and we are going to be working with Chris and some of his advocates to potentially look at how that land might be used. We may need to go for a couple different variances on that land, both for use and dimensional variances, but we're going to be working with him through that and hopefully come up with a solution. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioner Sykes.
I don't have any questions because I know we've spoken about this already, but thank you, Vice Mayor Knott, sincerely for providing this presentation because, you know, as I have expressed in my emails, I am so grateful for all of your guys' work. You've got a million things on your plate, and yet you are also helping, you know, this one individual in our community move a positive program forward and putting in, you know, extra work to do that. And I, from, you know, deeply from the bottom of my heart, appreciate all of your guys' work on that. So I am really appreciative, and I'm glad that Vice Mayor Knott had the forethought to share that information publicly. So thank you.
Any other questions for Director Kick? Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Next is closed session to discuss labor negotiations and a matter exempt from disclosure under state or federal law. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So move.
Support.
Support.
Let's see. Motion by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Commissioner Sykes. Clerk Boiling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
We are now going into closed session. Following the closed session, we will be returning to open session to take action.
there. It's quite an outfit, ain't it? You need one of them. You need one of those. You need one of these jump on and go.
everybody just look at it.
Commissioner Urban. All right, I'd like to call this meeting back to order. Commissioners, the recommended action is to, we need a motion rather, to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Kalamazoo and the Kalamazoo Public Safety Officers Association for the period of January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Sykes, supported by Commissioner Urban. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Right, Commissioners, we need a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Kalamazoo and the Kalamazoo Police Supervisors Association for the period of January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Cooney, supported by Commissioner Sykes. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
We are adjourned.